very good evening to you this Labor Day Monday. I hope you had a good rest today and managed to take a little rest and focus and reflect and congratulate all of yourselves for all the good work that you do every single day in this country. Good evening and welcome to Monday Night News. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole and our sign language interpreter is William Silla. So we have the latest on the Labor Day celebrations today. We'll also be focusing on a conversation regarding an important legislative forum that is happening in the country all of this week. I had an opportunity to speak with Kenya's Attorney General this afternoon. That conversation is coming up later on in this bulletin. But first, here are today's top stories.
Ile kitu inatushangaza ni kwamba kwa nini watu wanawawa kwa senta ilali tuko na jeshi hapo, tuko na hepi hapo.
Tears and pain as 8 people are killed in fresh skirmishes.
I have directed that the minimum wage be increased by 18%.
Wage boost for lowest paid workers, but is it good enough? Joy and protests as political parties rush to stem fallout from party primaries. And we tell you the story of 2 Kenyan ladies who are about to become SGR pioneers.
We want to start our bulletin tonight on Monday Night News with telling you about tension in Kapedo Trading Center in Tiati constituency, where 8 people were killed in cold blood on Saturday over cattle theft. And as Victor Ogale reports, the whereabouts of 3 women remains unknown.
Kapedo Shopping Center, the scene of the latest attack pitting 2 local communities, Pokots and Turkanas. At this particular spot, 5 elderly men aged between 55 to 80 were shot in cold blood, while the other 3 were shot dead outside the gate of the General Service Unit camp. The attack followed the theft of camels in the Mayan area, which were later sold to a herder in Kapedo. Trouble started when the original owners inquired about their animals. We visited a Mayan area and found the family of 79-year-old Araki Akwatu mourning.
Hao watu wametoroka, sisi tumebaki na shida. Ambavyo sasa tukienda kwa serikali wenye wanatulinda, waambie muende kwa kaunti zenu msaidiwe.
Na hata sasa hii hatuna uhakika kama wataenda mashule. Hata wale wanasoma mashule za huku mashambani, hatujui hata watatokaje.
Kwa nini askari hawakuweza kuokoa mpaka KDF ambayo na hizi Chesitet waliweza kuokoa wananchi? Na kutoka Chesitet mpaka Kapedo, it's almost 8 kilometers.
At the moment, there are fears of possible reprisal attacks, but local elders are working overtime to cool down tempers in Kapedo, a disputed area that both communities lay claim on.
Ni mtu mmoja ndio alisika simu yangu akasaidia watu yote. Hiyo ndio aliokoa sisi.
Ile kitu inatushangaza ni kwamba kwa nini watu wanawawa kwa senta ilali tuko na jeshi hapo, tuko na hepi hapo. KPR yenye hawa wanafaa kusuia hiyo mapunduki isitumie kiolela. Kwa nini hawasui?
Inganyoni nyubat. Huyo msichana yake sasa amewaja watoto wakiwa na yenye ananyonyesha.
Hizo punduki zimejaa Kapedo, punduki ambaye sio halali, punduki za KPR sote ziko Kapedo. Na tunaambiwa serikali wanataka punduki. Serikali wanataka punduki. Wanatafuta wapi punduki zingine? Waanze na Kapedo.
Well, that is Kapedo Trading Center, and there is still tension between the neighboring Pokot and Turkana communities. As it is now, members of the Pokot communities who are on this other side cannot go past this particular point, or rather downstream through the river into Kapedo Trading Center, which is mainly dominated by members of the Turkana community. Locals in Kapedo have faulted security officers in the area for failing to prevent the deaths, instead waiting for KDF to move in. The bodies of the deceased were taken to the Kabarnet Hospital mortuary. Victor Gale, KTN News, Kapedo.
Now, the government has today increased the minimum wage by 18%. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who presided over Labor Day celebrations, directed the rise in wages as well as an increase in the non-taxable overtime and bonuses to 100,000 shillings. But workers dismissed the new minimum wage increment, terming it too little.
After skipping last year's Labor Day celebrations, President Uhuru Kenyatta led the last May Day event of his first term amid high expectations. A promise by the president early last month to push for a salary increment for private sector workers had many quite hopeful, and he came bearing some good news.
We know that for 2 straight years, we have not increased the minimum wage, and so after consultation with key stakeholders, I have directed that the minimum wage be increased by 18%.
They offer less than the 22% that the Central Organization of Trade Unions has been advocating for. The increment brings the minimum wage to 13,800 shillings. But to the workers,
bei ya vyakula iko juu. Bei ya chakula ikishuka chini, itakuwa at least itakuwa imesaidia hiyo yenye ameongeza. Lakini kama itashuka, hapo ni kama hajafanya kitu.
The 51st Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Park also saw an increase of the non-taxable overtime and bonuses to 100,000 shillings.
To be able to meet your family's needs, I am aware the workers on lower income brackets are indeed struggling to afford basic necessities, and it is not fair that they should be taxed heavily.
Concerns over the high cost of living, the high unemployment rate and outsourcing of employment, especially to the Middle East, dominated speeches here.
With the current unemployment rate, Kenya needs to create about 4 million jobs for our youths by the year 2020. You and your deputy, you are asking young people to focus on Mombasa City. Mombasa City will create 10 million jobs.
It was a day when 2 rivals gunning for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat on August the 8th shared light moments, and when the president ran out of patience reading his speech. A day when workers left with an 18% minimum wage increment, one they say will make no difference in their lives given the high cost of living. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
All right, so workers were hoping for a 22% minimum wage increase. They didn't get that. Instead, they got 18% when the president addressed the Labor Day celebrations today. And so our big question tonight, we're asking you, do you think the 18% minimum wage increase will make a difference to the lowest paid workers? Will the 18% hike in the minimum wage make a difference to the lowest paid workers? Send us an SMS. The number is 22155. Start with a yes or no. Brief comment, your name and location. Alternatively, you can tweet me at Yvonne Okwara at KTN News. The hashtag is Monday Night News. I look forward to your views on this question. Now, unemployment in Kenya is no longer a hidden secret. It is, however, an issue that troubles many. So even as Kenya marked the Labor Day celebrations, the rising statistics of unemployed persons in Kenya continues. However, with the government's promise of creating jobs seeming far-fetched, the impact of EPZ on job creation cannot go unnoticed. So tonight, here's a story of a woman who's relying on EPZ for her livelihood.
With the majority of Kenyans weighed heavily by the high cost of living, a shrinking purchasing power, and barely enough to make ends meet, the export processing zones seem to bring in a ray of hope for many unemployed Kenyans, an opportunity that Nora Nasimiu knows too well.
Maisha ya sahi, wale watu wanapenda white collar jobs haziko. Na viwanda kama hichi chetu cha nguo By the way, wanatengeneza position mingi za kazi. Kwa hivyo naomba watu wasichague kazi. Tukiwa unachagua kazi, utaishi Nairobi maisha yale yenye ni ya uchungu. Na ndio unaonanga mtu amesoma, ako na degree, juu yeye anachagua kazi, atashinda ameishi akitembea na mabahasha na hatapata kazi.
Nora has been working here at United Harion EPZ in Ruaraka since 2008, a place she reports to every morning from her residence in Mathare North, one of Nairobi's highly populated areas. For her, getting such an opportunity gave her a new lease of life.
Niinua kimaisha, watoto wangu wamesoma, at least I'm somebody in the society.
EPZ is the official organ mandated by the Kenyan government to promote, attract and facilitate investment as well as opportunities. Just last month, the Ministry of Industrialization, in collaboration with the export processing zones, held a super sale at KICC where the locally made clothes were sold at affordable prices. All this meant to support Kenyan-made products and also secure employment for the many unemployed Kenyans.
These our manufacturers must be protected. And at the same time, Your Excellency, we must remind you that when we had the global economic and financial crisis, Kenya sustained economic growth because we relied on our informal sector. But this informal sector, other sections should not be there to kill our infant factories.
Hii 20% ambayo tulikuwa tumesema ya kwamba tutaruhusu wawe wanauza katika taifa la Kenya, tunataka tuiongeze hata ifike 40%, na ndio hawa waweze kuajiri Wakenya zaidi, na badala ya Wakenya kuwa wanavaa mitumba, wawe wananunua nguo mpya ambazo zimeundwa katika taifa lao la Kenya. Hiyo ndio tuwataka.
With unemployment still being a stinging issue in Kenya, the issue of importation of finished goods into the country still poses a bigger challenge to securing employment for most of those working in the informal sector. And as Kenyans mark Labor Day today, the expectation of having at least half of Kenyans securing employment in the formal and informal sectors here in Kenya still remains flickering. Raquel Muigai, KTN News.
All right, let's shift gears and take a look at the outcome of the just concluded political party primaries. Migori Governor Okoth Obado has been given the ODM ticket to defend his seat during the August poll. The Orange Democratic Party National Elections Board has awarded the governor the ticket following disputed nominations exercise that saw both him and his opponent Ochilo Ayako declared winners. Meanwhile, the ODM party has concluded its Nairobi nominations with businesswoman Esther Passaris emerging victorious as the ODM candidate for the women representative position. Timothy Atieno reports on results from Sunday's ODM primaries.
I therefore declare for these nominations Esther Passaris as the winner.
Supporters of Esther Passaris broke into song and dance after she was declared winner for woman representative position during a contest with 5 other opponents, all of whom were keen to unseat Rachel Shebesh. Having garnered 65,104 votes in the city, the battle lines are now drawn between Passaris, popularly known as Mama Ta, and her now political rival Manzi Wanai.
I'm very, very happy. But more than that, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to actually serve Nairobians and Kenyans as a whole. I feel we really need good leaders, leaders who actually understand that poverty is an infliction of bad leadership.
But the process did not go without hitches. In Westlands constituency, results from 2 wards went missing after a presiding officer allegedly went home with a tally. And in Langata constituency, this man, Alex Otieno, was declared the winner of the contest despite claims by his political opponents that the declaration had been made prematurely before tallying had been completed at High Rise Ward.
I have it. I can display.
Alex, however, insists he has duly won the primaries, showing off this certificate he says was handed to him by the returning officer.
Normally, always the losers,
they will always complain. In any game, they will always complain. So in this one, they are also bound to complain, but the game was done purely free and fair.
Babu Owino, George Aladwa and Ken Okoth were among those declared victorious in the exercise that has seen Tim Wanyonyi from Westlands and TJ Kajwang from Ruaraka receive direct nominations. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
And still on matters of party primaries, Jubilee Party Dispute Tribunal has dispensed 170 petitions filed by dissatisfied aspirants in the just concluded party nominations. 70 petitions have been dismissed, while the remaining have either been overturned or a repeat ordered. And as our senior reporter Chris Thairu tells us, the party is facing an imminent fallout after disgruntled aspirants vowed to vie as independent candidates.
For the better part of the day, it was a behave of activities at the Jubilee Party headquarters at Pangani as supporters accompanied their preferred aspirants to get a hearing before the Disputes Tribunal. One by one, they arrived at the party headquarters with hopes that the verdict will favor them. The tribunal has been handling at least 50 cases on a daily basis.
We have so far been able to conclude 170 matters. And we have 3-part hard matters, but the number of appeals that have so far been lodged with us are 508, which makes a percentage of 6.25% of the number of persons who are participating in these nominations.
However, the party remained tight-lipped as to which petitions have been dismissed and those where repeated been ordered.
Because it will be prejudicial for me to state the particular wards or constituency or counties if the individual candidates or individual parties are not aware of the rulings.
But even as the party continued to hear the petitions, those aggrieved are still contemplating vying as independent candidates. They included Nakuru Governor Kinothi Mbugua, who lost to Lee Kinyanjui, as well as Zedekia Buzeki, who lost the gubernatorial race to incumbent Governor Jackson Mandago.
Tangu asubuhi ya leo wamechoma ballot paper ambazo kwa mimi ninaona hii ni hatua ambao wamechukua ili ukweli usijulikane.
Sisi tutatafuta independent candidate na sisi tutaenda mpaka kwa debe ili watu wa Uasin Gishu wapate nafasi ya kupiga kura na waamue nani atakuwa gavana wao.
It's not about me anymore. It's about the people of Starehe. So if they think I should go independent, me, I'll go. If they tell me to remain in Jubilee, I'll remain.
However, there are still those who have faith with the Disputes Tribunal.
This was a clear win. I mean, I don't even know how someone can appeal when there's a gap of over 50,000. So we'll wait and hear what they say.
The people of the Dagoretti South went into an election. They went into a nomination process that was very fair. And their decision was resounding.
Another constituency to watch will be Starehe, where the incumbent MP Minor Commander has been accused of colluding with party officials to rig out Charles Kanyi, aka Jaguar.
Tuju awachane na siasa ya Starehe na muondoe mtu anaitwa Makadwelo ambaye alikuwa ambassador. Yeye ni kuokota na okota pesa hapa na yeye anajama na tutakuja kumfuruga hapa kwa sababu tunajua jama yake ile anafanya hapa.
What I'm not going to accept is the recounting of the votes kwa sababu they were tampered with. Kwa sababu kama tukiwa Jamhuri, there was one returning officer walitikia kufungua box lying to us that one of the POs aliingiza the final result kwa box.
The Jubilee Party intends to have dealt with all the disputes by Wednesday this week.
Those disgruntled aspirants and still wish to vie as independent candidates still have until Thursday this week to deposit their details and party symbols with the Registrar of Political Parties, or else forget their names appearing on the ballot paper come the 8th of August. Chris Thairu, KTN News at the Jubilee headquarters.
Okay, so President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto have in recent days ridiculed the National Super Alliance power-sharing deal that suggests creation of the Premier Cabinet Secretary post with 2 deputies. But just what does it take to create the 3 posts, and how implementable is the NASA deal? Our political affairs reporter Murimi Mwangi takes a closer look.
Barely 4 days after colorfully unveiling a 5-man presidential lineup, backed up by the creation of a Premier Cabinet Secretary post with 2 deputies, the National Super Alliance is already the talk of town.
They are planning to abuse existing wealth, so 3 people can get jobs.
The ship has set sail.
Under the pact, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka remain on the presidential ballot, while Musalia Mudavadi takes up the non-existent Premier CS post, deputized by Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula and CCM's Isaac Ruto. But an addendum in the NASA deal that prevails upon the 5 NASA core principles to gradually amend the constitution to streamline the structure of government with the 2005 Bomas draft has already gotten tongues wagging.
The country really cannot afford to spend billions of shillings to please 3 men. It needs that money to create jobs for the millions of youth.
This is an agreement with the people of Kenya that never again will there be political gerrymandering.
But while most analysts agree that creation of the Premier CS post as conceptualized would not necessitate any referendum, observers caution that the implementability of the NASA pact would largely depend on the president's goodwill should the opposition win the August elections.
The Constitution has been very clear as to who will lead Kenyans, and therefore the president is the person who symbolically will lead the Kenyans. No other person will have the same powers as the president.
Under the never-implemented 2002 MOU initially endorsed by all members of the NAC summit, retired President Mwai Kibaki's government had been tasked to institute constitutional amendments to create a prime minister's post, which, as former Vice President Mudi Awori discloses in his recently launched memoir, would have been occupied by Odinga. Pundits argue that drafters of the NASA pact could have seemingly conceptualized a gradual return of the PM post, with a political clout similar to that of the office under Odinga during the 2008 coalition government.
There's nothing like that. What we have is people who've come together. Others have been given the mandate to run the country as president and deputy president. The others must fall down below the pecking order.
Wanasema agenda yao na priority yao ni kugawana viti kati ya viongozi kule Nairobi.
Itakuwa ni serikali ya mpito, transitional and transformative government.
While the 5 core principles insist a president under NASA will be one among equals, debate will no doubt continue on the political clout of the Premier CS post as campaigns intensify ahead of the August elections. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Water rationing in the city of Nairobi continues, and according to the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, the crisis will persist as long as it does not rain adequately. Water levels at Ndakaini Dam, the city's main source of water, have now dropped to 22% of the dam's capacity. So for how long can Nairobi residents dig deeper into their pockets in search of alternative sources of water? Is there a long-term solution to this perennial problem? Alex Chimwada brings us a special report beyond dry taps at the tail end of this newscast. But first, here's a sneak preview into that report.
Before the rationing, we were getting water like twice a week. And now we are not even getting it at all.
There are cases where the shortage is artificial.
If Ndakaini Dam is going to be empty,
then how is this city going to survive?
We have the climate change as a major factor.
If the situation continues, I raise the raised flag to the Nairobi residents that all is not well.
We have got a major aquifer at Ruai. We want to convert that to a drilling or a well to supply water to Nairobi.
We are working on the Northern Collector Tunnel project. Once we do this, we will not have the issue of water rationing in Nairobi again.
That special report is coming your way at 10 p.m. You want to switch to KTN News, your 24-hour news channel, the only 24-hour news channel in the region, at 10 p.m. for that detailed report by Alex Chamara. It's called Beyond Dry Taps. Meanwhile, tonight we're asking you whether the 18% hike in the minimum wage increase will make a difference to the lowest paid worker. On Twitter, Amos Muchanga says, the president has done his best, and that's according to me. It's better than none. Ryan Musili Samir says, no, if the basic stuff prices won't come down and inflation control, the 18% is just nothing. Jonathan Bakesa Dipa, you say, yes, it can make a big difference. Even if it is small, it is good for any worker. What are your thoughts? Hashtag Monday Night News, at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara are the Twitter handles. You can reach me on SMS 22155. We'll be sharing more and giving you the poll result at the end of this bulletin. That's Monday Night News. We're taking a quick break, but we have more, including those pioneering ladies of the SGR and my conversation with Attorney General Githu Muigai about that conference that's taking place this week here in Nairobi. That's all still to come, so stay with us.